This video is to help explain how to combine multiple images using the correct image size for each individual image and to incorporate borders for a more professional presentation. So starting with our images, when you photograph an image or when you scan an image, typically the image size is going to be above that 600 to 800 pixel window that we're looking for. This image, I already know, is wider by 400 pixels. So what I need to do is I need to crop off some of this information because I don't want to shrink the image in this case. I've decided that I only want to use part of the image. So for example, if you had a lot of excess white space. So I'm going to remove a portion of this. To track how much space I'm using, we can go to using a grid. So you can go to View, and then you can select Show, and then make sure Grid is marked, and then just turn the extras on and it brings up the grid. If your grid is not a size that's not working well for you or you need to change it for some reason, go to Edit, Preferences, Grid, Guide, and Slices. And so here I have a grid line every 200 pixels. I'm subdividing it by 1, so each square becomes 100 pixels. I can count out 8 squares to get my 800 pixels. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And from there, I'm going to go to the Marquee tool. And I'm going to start at the top corner. Excuse me, I did not mean to move that there. I was too far up. Let's drag that back into position. So using my marquee, and also with this, let's make sure snap is on. Snap is. And so I can go close to the corner, and when I select it, it'll go to the nearest corner. So I'm going to count out my 8. And I already know that it's 800 pixels tall, so I don't need to trim off anything from the bottom. So I'm only going to use this space. So I'm going to go to Image, Crop, turn off my grid with Control H, check my image size with Control Alt I, and we can see we're in that 800 to 800 range that we're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK and move to the next image. So this next image, for some reason, I need to rotate it. It's not in the correct orientation. There's some simple tools for rotating. You go to Image, Image Rotation. If it's upside down, 180 degrees, clockwise, counterclockwise, those are pretty self-explanatory. In this case, for some reason, I need to rotate it 45 degrees, whatever reason that is. So I'm going to go to Select All, which is Control A. I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to go to Transform. I'm going to go to Rotate. So from here, I can change the size if I wanted to. I can change the degree that it's at. If I'm trying to change it very subtly, I can hover over this icon for the degree. I can click on it and I can move left or right. And so you can see that it moves at a very small amount at a time. And that helps if you're trying to figure out a specific point. In this case, I know I want to rotate it 45 degrees. So I can just rotate it there and I can hit OK. And from here, though, I want to get this down to 800 by 800. And I really don't care about, I just want the center part. I know that I don't really need to think about kind of using left or right like I did in the other one. So for this case, I'm going to go to Image, Canvas Size. I'm going to switch it to pixels. And we can see it's quite large, so I'm going to go to 800 and 800. And I'm going to hit OK, and then it's going to come up with a warning, and it's going to say that some clipping will occur. I'm just going to proceed because I know that. And now I have my rotated image. I've excluded that white space that I didn't want, and I can hit Control Alt I. I can check my pixels within that range, 600 to 800. Resolution 72. So that image is good and ready to go now too. So now I'll go on to my third image, and this one's a little bit of a different size. Again, checking the image size. It's a little bit irregular, so it's not going to be as easy as the other one, but I know I want to crop off certain parts of information. I know for this case, I don't want to use the bottom, this index that defines the images. I'm really just more concerned about the images. So I'm going to first crop those. And we could go back to using the grid too if you prefer, just turning it on, and then that'll have snap. The problem there is it's not going to line up real well here. So it's not going to be as precise as I need. So I can zoom in, just use the marquee. I don't really want the black line either, so I'll try to select with the inside. Unfortunately, I have snap on, so I need to turn snap off so it doesn't attach to the grid. It lets me have a little bit more freedom in my selection. And I'm still probably going to get part of that black line, and I may just crop that using image canvas size. And I'll do that in a moment. So I'm going to start here. And I'm probably going to want to shrink it too, but we don't need to worry about that. Let's crop off what we want first. Control H, turn off my grid, deselect. So I still got that black line. Let's get rid of the black line first. So I'm going to go to Image, canvas size, and I'm just going to trim it off a little bit. Now I could go back and use a ruler to get a sense of where it is. So view ruler right there. It was Control R was the shortcut, and I can get a sense of how much this is. You can change this if you want to. I know there's half inch, quarter inch. It's much less than 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to really just take off 1/10 of an inch because I know I don't really need the side edges of it too much either. So image, canvas size. I'm going to lower this by 1/10 of an inch. So 5, 8. Then again get that warning. That's fine. And so I've gotten rid of that black line I don't want. Now I'll go back, check the image size. And again, it's still too wide, so I need to shrink it down. But in this case, I don't want to just remove part of the image. I want to keep it all. So I'm going to make sure constrained proportions are on, and I'm going to type in 800. Now this does put the height a little bit below. It's something to consider. Sometimes if you have a landscape image, we can talk about it. But in general here, I tried my best to keep it within the size. It's just not going to work because it's a landscape, and that's okay. But we do want to see, in this case, that the maximum number is at 800. So ahead and hit OK. And I can zoom in. And you may notice if you start to change the image size a lot, there's a video. It's titled Color Integrity, and it applies to line as well on the YouTube page. So you can check that out, kind of get a sense of what happens. So now I've got my 3 images, and I want to review them. So for this one, I know it's 800 wide. I know that it's not quite the 800 tall. And I could write these down if I was interested, but at this point I don't need to. Again, 800 wide, 800 tall. So I know if I'm going to combine these, I need to have this to be at least 800 wide times 3, so 2400 pixels. And that height I need to have at least 800. So I'm going to combine them one at a time though, because it'll be a little bit easier to ensure I can include my border. So first off, let's go ahead and cancel this image, canvas size, and I want to double it wide, plus I want to have half an inch in the middle. So I'm going to just go 22.722. So just basically doubling the 1s to 2, adding my 0.5 in there. I'm going to anchor this to the left. And if I want a color background, and in this case I'll go ahead and use gray. You can pick whatever one you want though. And now I'm going to go to my other image. Let's zoom out here though first and see. So here's the space where I'm going to put the other image next. And I also, when I'm doing this, I definitely want to check to make sure Snap is on to help it organize the space. So now again, Control A, select all. Control C to copy it. Go back to my other image. Control V to paste it. Move tool here, shortcut V, and just slide it into position. Now I've got my half-inch border ready. I'm not going to add my outside border until I'm fully done. So now the next image, we got to go to it. And remember, this was the one it's 800 pixels wide, but it's a different height. So for extending the width, I only need to do the same thing I did with this last step. So image, canvas size. I want to add the 1s across here, plus I need the 0.5. So if I have trouble with math, I'll add the 0.5 first, so 3.2, and then I'll add that width, the 11.111, that's 800 pixels at 72 resolution. So go through these one at a time, 3, 4, and then 333. You can do this by percent as well. And if they're all the same size, you can initially come in and just do, if you're going to stack them wide, just do 300%, leave the height at 1. Or if you're going to stack them on top of each other, just increase the height by 300%, leave the width at 100%. It's a simpler method if they're all the same standard size. And that's a reason why we try to focus on that standard size. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here. Now I'm going to I can go ahead and check to make sure, and I made a mistake. So I need to undo that, undo canvas size, go back to canvas size. I need to make sure I anchor this to the left, and then I need to go ahead and add my space again. So again, 3, 2, and so I know this time it's 34.333. So 34.333, hit OK, go back to my other image, select all, Control A, edit copy, Control C, go back to the final image that I'm creating, again with the border on, just slide this over. And from here, if you're interested, and I think you should be, look at the rulers, look at the grid, try to center this in here. Now that's when you could change the grid a little bit. Notice when you move the cursor, you can see the measurement here. So I know roughly coming down that I'm almost 2 inches in here. If I go to the bottom, I know that 11.1. If I come in, let's see, it's around 9 point something. So it's roughly about 2 inches in the center. You can be a little bit more specific if you want. It should be close. So now at this point I have all 3 images on the page. I need a border on the outside of the images. So let's go ahead and just zoom out a little bit. And what I mean by that, I need an image on the left side here, the right side, top and bottom. So I'm going to go back, image, canvas size, and I did it 50 pixels, or I did it half an inch before. So I want to just go ahead and do half an inch again. So in this case, I just added 1 inch to both the width and the height. Hit OK. And now I have my border. It's all set to go. Very simple. Let's go ahead and cover the easier solution here. And in this case, I'm just going to use the same image 3 times. So I'm going to just copy this. It's already selected. Image, canvas size. I'm going to leave it centered. I'm going to go %. I'm going to go 300. And then I need to think about adding that border. In this case, I'm just going to go just add 10% in the middle. That'll give me a little extra room. Control V to paste it. Move it over. Locks in with snap. Control V to paste another one. Move it over. Go to image, canvas size. Again, just add that 1 inch. And there you can see how much easier this is if you have a standard image size. What took us, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes before, now we did it in under a minute when we have that standard image size. We've got a nice border here. If we want, we can go ahead and put our name, we can put file, whatever you want into the border. If you have a lot that you need to add, go ahead and weight the bottom of the border a little bit, go another 50 pixels or half an inch if you feel necessary. But this is what we're looking for. 3 images, border all the way around and in between the images, everything together under a single file name. You remember last name, first initial, underscore, week. You can just use a W, the week number it is, capital A, and then the assignment number. Very simple kind of presentation, but 2 different approaches, one with different sized images, one with identical images. And so hopefully this clarifies what we're looking for in the presentation. One last thing, when we check image size can increase proportionally to the number of images. We don't want to sacrifice image quality just because we're combining these images. I'm going to zoom in anyway on individual images, so we don't, where we normally may have to consider of how a web page will look, where we're worried about presenting our assignments to the class and myself and any other observers that we may have from time to time. Again, if you have any final questions about this, just let me know in problems and solutions discussion area or question for professor area. But this is a very simple process, and I do expect to see it with all assignments.